this Surroundscape session, Reza and I wanted to chat a little bit about music services. It comes up quite a bit in our support requests in terms of people with residential music services versus what we call commercial music services. So we wanted to go through in this session with Surroundscapes and sort of go into a little more detail and explain some of the license implications and also the really feature implications of commercial versus residential. So we'll go through that in a few slides here. So really the first slide I have today is really indicating a few items. For example, features, licensing, and single zone versus multi-zone capabilities and content. So Reza, you have a lot of people who, they're calling you up and they're using some residential services. And, what kind of issues do they usually run into when they're trying to use residential services in a commercial environment?
I think at the highest level, it's not built for purpose. So one of the issues we see a lot is just reliability. They're not going to get that uptime that they're looking for. They're not necessarily made to be streaming 24/7. And you do see those issues manifest, and you do see times where basically, someone will call and say, okay, I'm using such and such, and this is happening. And you can Google it, look at forums and things like that, and see that it's common with that service. And when it comes back to the fact that, these aren't made for that use case. They're made more for the home setting where, if you have to press something twice, it's okay. Or maybe if something stops and you just have to hit replay, it's not so bad. But when you want that sort of set it and forget it sort of experience, it doesn't seem to really be up to the challenge.
And I think one thing that sort of works hand in hand with that, trying to have that persistence of 24/7 is also scheduling. And that scheduling is pretty important because no one really wants to have to go into a business and, turn the music on in the cafeteria every morning at 8 o'clock. And so, you're not faced with that in residential applications. When you go and sit in your lounge, that's when you press play and that's fine. But in a commercial setting, whether you're on site or not, you want the music to start and end at a certain time, for example. And so having a scheduling capability is kind of key. And it's interesting that the commercial music services offer that kind of feature, but you don't see that in your residential services. And so, that is one major issue, along with announcement capabilities. The store's closing in 15 minutes or whatever. You can look all you want in a residential service. You're not going to find that kind of feature. So, a lot of times, I try not to chat in a negative way, but talk really in a positive way, saying as an integrator, you want to offer a great solution to customers, not only our products, but also the music services that go along with it. And that's where the commercial music services offer these features. And a lot of the commercial music services also offer the ability to do multi-zone at the same time. So, you might want to have 9 meeting rooms and running 9 streams at the same time. Can't do that with a lot of residential services. With some of the multi-zone services like Sound Machine, for example, with your licensing with Sound Machine, you can run multiple streams into multiple zones using all your Bluesound players all at the same time, which is really handy to do. Also wanted to go through in one of my slides, we talk about licensing. And this is a big thing that, we make our customers aware that, when you look at the end user license agreement with a lot of residential services, with the Spotify and Titles of the world, is they specifically highlight the fact that they're for non-commercial use is not allowed.
Correct.
And so, we constantly are reminding a lot of our users about that. And I know some of our users have run into legal issues, and so we always try and make them aware. But as I say, that's kind of a negative thing. I'd rather talk about the positive side of the features that commercial music services bring to the table. and go. And, you know, sometimes too, I'll have people come up to me at a show and say, well, you know, I really like using that residential service. And, but I say, you know, there are tools that you can move your favorite playlists from those residential services to a commercial music service. And one of the slide examples I have here is using a tool called SoundDiz, which is a cloud tool. And I use that to move Spotify playlists to Sound Machine. And, you know, you get a fairly close high percentage transfer. And it's really easy to do. And so this playlist conversion will go from in this case, from Spotify to Sound Machine, and ends up listing as a playlist in our Bluesound controller app under your Sound Machine music service, and it's really easy to use. So I highly recommend that kind of way of handling that objection, if you will. And so it really leaves little reason why you would use a residential service in the commercial, because commercially you've got all the features, you've got multi-zone capability, and now most of my favorite playlists I can move into this commercial music service.
And you know, it's funny, a situation I had someone call about, because they were asking about commercial music services. And another advantage is because these are made for commercial use, the content has that in mind. So everything's, you know, family friendly. You're not going to find, you know, the explicit version of a track.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's
especially,
true.
you know, sometimes you might want to play like a variety of playlists, maybe like, you know, 90s hip hop or something. You don't have to worry about going through and finding the radio edits or anything like that. That's all you're going to get on those services. So that's an added benefit, because, you know, it's a business. You don't want to be, you know, offending anyone.
Yeah, I've heard of that more and more from a lot of businesses. Another slide I wanted to show was really from the Sound Machine account. I have an account there, and you can see on this the schedule. You can just go crazy in terms of what you can create in terms of schedule. And this example is just sort of a fun one, but I'm basically changing the genre from hour to hour to hour, and playing different things, and then day to day to day. So you can really, you know, if the mood of your restaurant or business changes throughout the day, you can adjust the music accordingly without touching it. So, you know, your end user's busy with the restaurant, doesn't want to have to be concerned about handling music all day long and being a disc jockey. And using the schedule tool, you can do that. It's all done in the cloud, and then the schedule appears in your Bluesound controller once you access your account. So really a handy tool, and I just love doing it because, you know, you can do this anywhere. You can, you know, edit your schedule anywhere because it's cloud-based, and just apply it to your local device. So really nice. Same with announcements. You know, a lot of end users now, they want to have announcements saying the store's closing in 15 minutes, or there's a special going on in this department. You can have all those announcements, and it gets neatly placed in between music tracks, and is really an added little bonus.
Yeah, and there's evidence backing up, you know, when you do have those announcements, just for the atmosphere it creates, or if it's promoting, you know, a sale saying, you know, for the next hour, 10% off on cosmetics, for example, you do see that difference. So there's value in it. It's not just aesthetic in the sense that, okay, it's just an announcement or branding. There really is a lot you can do with it that will have a return.
Sure, that's great. My next example slide, I just wanted to show how the schedules appear in the Bluesound controller app. So by player, you can see, and you just select the appropriate schedule, and your player then starts following that schedule. And in between, for example, if I did it from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., at 5 p.m., the system will show that the schedule is paused. So your Bluesound controller will indicate schedule pause, and then at 8 a.m. the next morning it automatically starts up again, and you can see in the now playing screen the stream that you're playing. So really, really handy within that tool. those are really a lot of the highlights that I want to talk about in terms of music services. But probably one of the biggest things we're faced with these days, Reza, is just the persistence of the 24/7 desire. I find some of the residential services, and you've heard this too, some of them by their subscription rate do not, do have a fixed cutoff. I know one that has a fixed cutoff at 8 hours, that's it. Unless you buy the business version of their product, using any other stream service, it will stop. And it's kind of interesting. I remember one of our users, the guy was using a free version, so like you'd have commercials in there and everything. It was kind of surprising, using a residential service with commercials in yet a commercial type setting when they really should have been using a business subscription. So it's really surprising, really the level of, I don't know if it's the level of knowledge or what, but really maybe through this session and others, some of our integrators will be empowered more to provide some more direction to some of the end users in terms of what they really should be using.
For sure, and I think it even goes back, like if you're looking from a cost perspective, it actually works out to be a better value in most cases because, like you mentioned, you're having if you want individual streams to multiple zones, a lot of times once you're on the same subnet or the same network, you could do that just with your one account, as opposed to sort of hacking a residential service and buying multiple. The price really goes up, and we didn't go too detailed into all the licensing aspects and stuff, but that varies per country and things like that. But like you said, I would encourage integrators and whoever else is watching to look into that and how that works in your country and what licensing fees there are, because most of these commercial services will cover that for you in that monthly fee.
Yeah, some do. It is kind of complex, unfortunately, in some other countries where music service only covers the content license in some cases, and then the performing rights license is completely separate in some countries. So yeah, licensing is a tricky question. Just to know that at least getting off on a good foot is starting with a commercial music service. You're in better shape on the content side, but you still have to look into seeing whether your performing rights license is covered or not.
And sorry not to cut you off there, but there's people that simply didn't know. I'd encounter people that was like, oh, they didn't realize. So there's even that. So it's not that people, are just, maliciously doing it or they don't care or something. I think it's just that, why we're doing this episode is just that getting that message out there, educating people, and encouraging anyone to run with that and see how it operates in your specific jurisdiction, because it differs, but it's something you need to know about.
Sure, and there's a lot of options that we are integrated with, whether it's Sirius for Business or custom channels or Sound Machine in North America, and then around the world with Sound Machine, and also Tunify in some European countries. So a lot of those commercial options are available, and as I say, are highly recommended. So hope you've enjoyed this session, Surroundscapes with music services, and hopefully we've provided a little bit more information to help in your decision process and how to help customers along the pathway to deliver optimal music in their space. Thanks again.